Hey guys, welcome to a new video. Patch 7.11 just dropped, but I want to go over what the notes aren't telling you, the hidden buffs and nerf, the less obvious stuff that actually isn't in the notes. By the way, this is a video sponsored by Pro Guides. You guys know I've worked with them for ages now, but we've made a few changes. We got rid of the intro, which you all said you didn't really like. They have a bunch of guides on the website to help you improve as a player, so I highly recommend at least giving it a try. They have a free trial, so there's literally nothing to lose. You can sign up down below, check it out, and see if you like it. Partly for this, also for the World of Warships promotion I did last week, we're going to give away $50 of RP on this video, so leave that comment, make sure you subscribe and like the video if you want to enter. I want to try something a little bit new as well. I'm going to try to be more active in the comment section. There's some really good stuff in there, so maybe a question each video to answer. And this time, let me know what you think is going to jump up this patch, see if I got it right or if you have some other ideas, and I'll pin one of my favorite ones. We're starting with some of the biggest stuff. Lucian and Kailyn both getting nerfs in the same patch. When you play League in 7.10, by the way, the game had about a 70% chance to either have Lucian or Kailyn a bot lane. That's pretty ridiculous. Now, obviously, with these two coming down in power, it's going to mean others can come back up, but a few in particular, Xayah is the first one. At least for most people, Kailyn is considered one of the few counters to Xayah, or a very hard matchup anyway. Let's just point out, by the way, Xayah is on the brink of becoming overpowered so bad right now. As people are like properly learning her, there's a massive difference between a bad one and a good one. If you've played less than 50 games of her, you're probably going to be losing a lot, boasting like a 45% win rate, which is awful. Even Vayne is better than that, right? Even Fogshop is going to be better than that. If you played more than 150, that number is going to jump to 57%, which is insanely high. Anyway, Kailyn matchup, pretty hard. Her range is quite annoying, like she can kite you in your feathers, which makes it hard to catch her with an E, and she also has super good mid to late game. 1v1, I do think Xayah actually has this a little bit, like she's better mid game for sure, but that's not really what Kailyn is about anyway. In teamfights, her range and crit will burst pretty hard before you can get many feathers out. One of Xayah's good matchups though is against Vayne, but I think she is also going to be better. Lucian and Kailyn are two of like the most oppressive, boring lanes and high impact mid game picks you can play, right? Which means Vayne doesn't really have that much fun. We're already seeing her with Doran's shield come back up a bit though, as kind of a counter, I guess, but this patch will be even better. I honestly think Vayne is like in an okay spot right now if Lucian and Kailyn are not so dominant. The real winner though is going to be Twitch, like probably the strongest AD, just not as safe as Lucian or Kailyn. Xayah is pretty good against him, well, not that good, but like compared to everybody else, she doesn't get dumpstered, so that's kind of the benchmark we have. That's how strong he is. Now, if you lower the power of the two most popular lane bullies, suddenly Twitch has more of a free pass in the hardest phase of the game for him, so I don't really know about that. Likely he's going to get nerfed soon, I actually think, but this patch is going to be even better than he already is, so make the most of it. Now, this isn't as direct, but Jinx is really like the AoE crit machine team fighter instead of Kailyn now. You get runins, you get fervor, you have AoE rocket crits, and you're going to demolish a team fight basically. Kane's damage is going to go down a bit, but Jinx is just as good as before, so there's definitely more of a reason to pick her this patch. Overall for ADs, it would mean the Kailyn Lucian nerfs are actually a hidden buff to Jinx, Twitch, Vayne, and Xayah, who should all be doing much better now. That's not the only thing to do with AD carries, though. They're kind of targets for everybody else, right? Like mid laners live for ramming their spell cooldowns down my throat, so it's going to change mid lane as well. Lucian and Kailyn are two of the safest ADs you can play, so diving in as like an assassin sucks more than normal. If I'm right, and Jinx, Twitch, Vayne, and Xayah all become more popular, then these are the ADs that die a lot more. They have a lack of mobility, shorter range, weaker laners, or an up-close playstyle. That is pretty much like an assassin's wet dream, really. I think this is a buff to two playstyles, though. So the push and roam playstyle first. This is exactly what the name is, right? You push your lane, then you roam bot lane. Talia, Talon, Aurelion Sol, Ahri, LeBlanc are a few examples of what I mean. It's so much more worth roaming down when you're not against a KO Lucian, so it improves your chances of success, getting fed, more gold for you. It makes a lot more of a difference than you probably think. Second one is for assassins, so Fizz, Talon, Echo, I guess, like people who don't really care about lane that much but want to get fed other places. This is pretty much perfect as well. Like you have easier prey, I guess. Feels bad being an AD main here, but honestly the reason Kailyn and Lucian are so popular is because they don't get boned as hard as others against these types of champions. That's why we've seen them fade off a little bit, honestly, but that will change if they aren't in every game again. So overall for mid laners, the AD carry meta shift will be hidden buffs to push and roam champions plus assassins who want to be focusing down more on mobile, less safe AD carries. I'd especially say this is good for Talon, Fizz, and Talia. I think those are the three main ones. Also, very quickly, AD carry builds. The Blade nerf isn't massive, but it's a bigger, less noticeable nerf to a few champions in particular. Lucian feels this harder because of his double shot passive, which means you're applying lifesteal twice. Basically, you lose 6%, not 3%. Runaan's users is a bit more hidden though, so Kog'Maw, Twitch, maybe Kalista as well. The lifesteal applies on all targets you're hitting, meaning you're losing 3 per target and 9% overall per auto attack, so it actually sucks more. Also with triple attack speed, like Blade Ring King and 2 crit items, that's normally what it looks like. Now 3% is 3%, whether you hit 100 times or 10 massive crits doing the same damage, but the difference here is the percentage damage on the blade on each attack. That 8% current health damage actually applies lifesteal, so you're going to be healing for 3% less of the damage dealt with that as well. That becomes more of an issue when you're attacking a lot and applying it a lot more, right? The damage is the same, but the healing is going to be a lot less here. In a weird way, it also does impact crit builds, even though you probably wouldn't have thought so. Kailyn, Jinx, Twitch, for example, they normally go 2 attack speed items and then maybe get a blade as their lifesteal item, right? It's kind of common. Now, I think you probably almost always want to go Bloodthirster unless there is a massive tank. You're going to be healing for a good chunk less, as we just explained. You crit for less with less AD on this, so it's really not as good in a full crit build. Now remember though, you feel this change to Blade more mid to late game than early, where 3% doesn't mean as much as when you're critting for like 1,000. If you're going to build double lifesteal as well, so either like adding a Bloodthirster, Mercurial, or Death Dance into the build as well as Blade, then honestly, it's not going to matter that much. It's going to reduce your overall damage output though, so really like the hidden change to Blade here is that you're not as safe when buying it anymore. Specifically for Lucian, Runaan's users, and champions who buy double attack speed on top of it, it's nowhere near as good. That pretty much covers the bot lane stuff, but Yasuo is another big change, and we're actually getting another like hidden buff to Riven. Yasuo should be easier to lane against now with this change, right? There's a bigger window to give him one and fight anyway, at least. That's kind of how you beat him anyway, right? Like otherwise he outscales, so you beat him early, you try and end the game before he farms up too much and just becomes that annoying pain in the ass. In 7.10, Riven, Pantheon, Darius, and Kindred were the main ones who were beating this guy, so all of them will be getting better. They're all pretty popular except Pantheon, right? But he's going to be really good in 7.11. The recent Guardian Angel buff was super good for him. It gives him more damage with the revive, but if you think about who is going to be popular this patch, Riven is probably the only one who is able to do well versus him because she shields the poke damage. Fiora and Gangplank get dumpstered by Pantheon. Darius, Kled, Yasuo are difficult to play against him because of how strong he is early. He's not even as trash mid to late game as everybody thinks, so he's definitely my pick who got a big buff top lane. If anything as well, with Riven getting more popular and Yasuo a bit weaker, mid game builds are going to come back and be a lot more useful. There's a bigger chance to get super far ahead with them. The best of that kind of thing will be Trinity and Sterix, and you'll be surprised just how much this works on loads of different champions, to be honest. Darius, Fiora, Olaf are probably the main ones you do not think work with the build, but actually are really good carries if you go that way. It's like way more ham, but it's really beast. Jax, Irelia, Yorick are the more mainstream ones, and you know who else though? Nasus. This one is strange, I'll admit that, but legit, he does so much damage with this build. It's really good. Try it and let me know what you think, but your Q stacking and your Sheen, it's just insane. You've got the shield as well, plus your ultimate health. It's so hard to kill you, but you'll almost always be one-shotting people with this. No joke, it's so good. It's something that isn't popular, but like, especially at lower ranks, this patch, it will actually be better if you want to give it a go at least. So overall then, Yasuo nerfs are actually a hidden buff to Riven, to Pantheon, Darius, and Kled as well. It also indirectly buffs the mid-game build, so Trinity and Sterix is one of the most common one because of the meta shift. Finally, the Kindred rework. What does it mean apart from we're going to see a crap ton more of her? Some really good, some probably really bad. The first thing is you do not want to go to late game versus a good Kindred. As the game goes on, she gets more range, which is nasty enough. By the way, I see loads of people when I talk about this saying, why does that even matter? But basically, she can't be hit at the back of a fight, so she pumps out really high damage for free, and if someone dives in, she can ult and kite away. But yeah, so more range as the game goes on, more attack speed from her Q, and more percentage damage, so she melts any target, and especially tanks. It's hard because, like, at lower elo especially, right, games do not end that fast normally. Like, it's kind of a frag hunt, and it drags the game on and stuff, so Kindred actually has even more time to scale, like a Veigar or a Nasus or Yasuo now. It is actually a nerf to her in some ways though, so the percentage damage before was on your auto attacks, now it's moved to your W and your E, which means the Runaan's AoE damage shred build is nowhere near as good anymore. Runaan's applied the percentage damage from Kindred's basic attacks, so with Blood Razor it honestly was just amazing. Now that synergy is not really there anymore, which means we're going to move her to more of a single target, a lot like an AD carry, which by the way does mean she can actually be played bot lane in my opinion and do really well with a blade and crit build. I'm going to be testing that a lot more though as we go into the patch. Anyway, hidden buff wise for the rest of the jungle, it helps out Kha'Zix, Elise, Shaco as well would even be better this patch, who can pressure Kindred early in the weak stages. Plus they can actually burst her before she uses the ultimate, or they duke around waiting for it to expire anyway. And Elise is already top tier. Even though there are no major changes to her directly, she's going to be probably the best you can play in 7-11, except Zac, I guess, who's just completely broken. We're going to see a lot of Kindred and Rek'Sai, and Elise is most likely going to burst both of them so hard and out-gank them as well. There are also a few hidden nerfs with this though, so like weak early game junglers or mid game ones that get out-scaled by the Kindred player. Nocturnal Graves, for example, do not do very much until 6 until they get their ultimates, right? They mostly just farm exactly like Kindred wants to play. Graves is already kind of getting screwed in 7-10, so this is really not what he needs right now. Like Elise also spanks him, so Elise gets more popular, Kindred more popular, Graves is even more sad than he already is. I think this might actually be the end of the top tier Graves era, honestly, with these changes. Because Kindred is so good late game, she's actually very good against like Xin Zhao, Shyvana, who also want to scale, or tanks like Gragas and Rammus, so those are going to drop down in win rate a bit more as well. Overall, what that really means, Kindred changes are actually a buff to Elise and Kha'Zix, and nerf the champions like Graves big time, also champions like Xin Zhao, Gragas, or Rammus. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and found it useful, and remember to leave a comment with who you think should have been here. Thanks for watching, but for now, I'll leave you with the robots.